Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 p.m., so I will call the Tuesday, June 3rd meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councillor Ledeen.
Here.
Councillor Anderson. Vice President Moffat.
Here.
Councillor Sweeney. Here. Councillor Fennessy. Here. Councillor Elm.
Here.
Councillor Ludwig.
Here.
Vice President Herrick.
Here.
Councillor Johnson. Here. President Grasky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 4.1 is the approval of the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Motion is by Councillor Herrick, second by Councillor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 6.1 is report from Mayor Payne.
Okay, it is a very busy time, councillors, and it's going to be a very busy summer, so I'll just give you the things that popped into my head most recently. First, in terms, our budget process starts now. This month, we will have the department head retreat, and the biggest difference there is I'm very likely to invite the council leadership to attend that. So you're going to want to start thinking about your budget priorities right now. These are the magic wand proposals. They don't have to be pie in the sky things, but you can be as ambitious as you want to be with these proposals. You can be as nuts and bolts as you want to be, but now's the time to start thinking about them and talk to the leadership about them, talk to me about them. We'll help you articulate these into proposals. The sooner you know about them, the more likely they are to be in the actual budget priorities process when we get into July, which is when I hope to have all of the proposals in front of you for you to talk about it and then rank them so that we can be really in the thick of it come August. So start thinking about your priorities now. You'll be discussing them in July. We're writing the budget in August. There's probably a committee of the whole coming up, but I can't remember what that was for. Oh, we talked about there are a few changes to committee structure and things like that that probably merit a longer discussion. So look for a place. It's impossible to pick a quiet council meeting. You never know when that's going to be, usually never. And if possible, I would reserve a night for committee of the whole. So I may talk to the leadership about when a good time to schedule that would be. I hate to bring you in for another night during the summer. We may just have to do a long one after a council meeting, or we could abandon a council meeting. Shelley Nelson let me know at the last meeting, we didn't used to do 2 council meetings a month. It used to be council at the beginning, committee of the whole in the second meeting to just kind of talk about our business more at length. But I'll talk to the leadership about that. I just wanted you to know about it. Today was Tree Tribute Day. That's always a great day, a very inspiring day. It seems to be larger every year. We dedicated the trees that we have planted in honor or in recognition of citizens and organizations, all citizens this year. And I only bring that up because I hope that you got notification about that. If you didn't, I will correct that next year. We don't do one in every single district, but we hit most districts most years, and they're all over the city. So I'm going to try and make sure that you at least know about it when it's going to be in your district and give you special attention on those, so you can come and see the new trees that are going to pop up in your neighborhood. So special thanks to President Grasky for joining us. My only item of business tonight is I'm very pleased to recommend Colin Payton to the position of City Assessor. He has been serving as our acting assessor since February 4th, so I would like to confirm him in that position, backdated to February 4th to allow his advancements to occur on that date going forward, so he can get full credit for the service. He's done an outstanding job in that assessor's department. I think his employees not only would speak well of him, they've approached me independently to speak well of him without me soliciting that. So I'm very pleased to get that work moving forward. Not that it hasn't been. He's been doing outstanding. So what is your pleasure on the confirmation of Colin Payton?
Motion approved.
Second.
The motion is by Councillor Fennessy, second by Councillor Grasky. Is there discussion? Councillor Herrick.
Yeah, is he here tonight?
He's online.
Oh,
Historically,
okay.
for employee hires, we have not subjected those to council questions, but I'll answer whatever questions I can.
No, I just want to.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. He's online.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thanks.
Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Congratulations to our new assessor.
Item 7.1 is the business of the Human Resources Committee with a meeting held on May 19th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. First of all, our members of the committee are Grasky, Moffett, and Sweeney. We held elections. Election of chair was Sweeney, and the election of vice chair was Grasky. We approved a couple items for a light equipment operator and a police department. Updated the job description for the student worker. We discussed the establishment of some form of a process for the non-union wages, and we'll be digging into that in the months to come. The action item is and we recommend a student worker position in the finance department, a summer intern position. So the clerk would read that, please.
The recommendation is to approve a student worker position in the finance department for the summer of 2025.
The motion is by Councilor Grasky, second by Councilor Moffett. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 7.3 is the business of the Finance Committee with a meeting held on May 27th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. Once again, we had elections from the Finance Committee. And the members of that committee are Elm, the gentleman right there, and I'm sorry, and Sweeney. And the chair, we had elections. Sweeney was named the chair, and vice chairman was Elm. Excuse me. We discussed the Village of Superior contract, which we have with them. We brought up the idea of charging them for a little addition for the capital costs or depreciable costs of the equipment, vehicles and equipment and buildings. And so that was held in committee, and so we're going to continue on with that. Our chief financial officer sent the final report into Baker and Tilley for their audit, and so that should be done. So they're getting this done faster and quicker, and I think smoother. So hats off to the finance department, and we will probably expect the final report back. I'm not sure, but I think we talked about sometime in July, perhaps. We talked about the software going on, software upgrade in the finance department. That's a huge endeavor, and I applaud the finance director. I think that they had, if I'm not mistaken, 10 bids on it, so they're going through that and reviewing that. So we also talked about and approved a summer hire for an intern for the summer. It's just a student in the accounting school, I think in Whitewater, and so he's going to be here for the summer. I don't know what that means in summer, but he will be here. So we talked about policies and procedures. We have to review that, and that's at best slightly boring, but we have to get through it and do it. So we're working on that. The ARPA funds money, the money it's done. It's I think I can quote the finance director. All he has to do is track it now to make sure that it all gets spent. We have it all encumbered, and whether it gets spent will be. It's not the challenge on the city. The city has done their part. Now whoever the money has gone to has to spend it, and hopefully they will. And so we'll see what happens. But they're on top of that, so we thank them for that. We did go into closed session to discuss the awarding of the museum's contract. And so let me just briefly discuss closed session. Closed session means going into a closed session where everyone except the officials can be in there, and we talked about awarding the contract, if you would, to numbers of people, 2 or 3 different people, and for the city. And we've been actually at this for, I think, 10 months. So we have vetted this, I think, more than adequately. And so on Thursday we went into the closed session and talked about it again for probably an hour to hour and a half. Came out and we voted to award or to take the 3 museum business in-house. And so That's our recommendation, and I would like the clerk to read the motion, please.
The recommendation is to approve the City of Superior assuming full operations of the Fairlawn Mansion and Museum, the Old Firehouse and Police Museum, and the Whaleback Ship Museum.
Motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Moffett. We have several people signed up to speak in public comment. Public comment, the first will be Suzanne Projka. Please correct my Prohaska, thank you. The public comment lasts for exactly 3 minutes. I will give you a warning at the 30-second mark when you have 30 seconds remaining. That rule is firmly enforced. It is ordinance, and unless the council extends it. We have several people signed up, so I will cut the comment off abruptly at 3 minutes. I feel like I forget another rule. Well, I'll remind you if you break it. So you have 3 minutes. 3 minutes, please.
Hey,
Okay.
Mayor, can I make a motion to extend that 3 minutes to 5, just to allow everyone? Yeah, I doubt everyone will use it, but just to allow everyone the opportunity to get their thoughts in.
Motion by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Elm to extend the public comment to 5 minutes. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Ms. Prohaska?
Thank you.
You have 5 minutes. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Could you turn your mic back on, please?
We good? Okay. Mayor Payne, city councilors, I'm reading a statement on behalf of Megan Meyer. As a former tour guide and most recently executive director of Superior Public Museums, I'm writing to express my strong support for SPM's continued management of Fairlawn Mansion, the SS Meteor Whaleback Ship, and the Old Firehouse and Police Museum. Since SPM assumed stewardship of these sites, we've preserved and brought to life some of Superior's most important landmarks. While the city has always retained ownership, SPM has taken great care in managing day-to-day operations, delivering meaningful education experiences, and welcoming thousands of residents and visitors each year. I believe that an increase to SPM's annual stipend would allow the organization to continue offering high-quality programming while also investing more in its staff, including expanding benefits and increasing wages. It's worth noting that this stipend has not been increased in over 10 years. In that time, SPM has absorbed rising costs across the board, including wages, utilities, and general operations. I respectfully encourage the city to fully consider the financial and logistical implications of bringing the museum operations under direct city management. This shift could limit access to nonprofit funding opportunities, including grants, donations, and planned giving, resources that have long supported SPM's mission and the care of these sites. In my experience, SPM offers a unique community-based approach to museum stewardship, ensuring that these historic sites are not just preserved but brought to life. I truly believe that the best path forward is for SPM to continue operating the museums, sharing Superior stories with professionalism, passion, and care. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Caitlin Bauman. We need to turn the mic on again, please. And you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, councilors, Mayor Payne, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Caitlin Bauman, and I serve as board president of Superior Public Museums. I live at 404 24th Avenue East. Tonight, I respectfully urge you not to vote in favor of the city taking over daily operations of Fairlawn Mansion, the SS Meteor, and the Old Firehouse and Police Museum, and instead to continue the city's successful 25-year partnership with Superior Public Museums. SPM has been a trusted steward of these historic sites for over 2 decades. We've worked to preserve the buildings and collections, welcome thousands of visitors annually, and created engaging, inclusive programming that connects people to Superior's unique history. This isn't just about daily operations, it's also about consistency, expertise, and earned community trust. We've built strong partnerships with schools, tourism organizations, small businesses, and local nonprofits like the State of Wisconsin Police and Fire, Hall of Fame, the Great Lakes Shipwreck Preservation Society, and the Master Gardeners, keeping these museums vibrant, accessible, and relevant. But it's also a fiscal decision. Based on the available numbers, the city assuming daily operations would cost an estimated $350,000 more per year. This includes increases on staffing costs, health insurance, and operations, partially offset by the elimination of the SPM stipend and the hotel-motel tax contribution, and factoring in the loss of revenue from SPM that we currently generate. This estimate would also include approximately $100,000 in new revenue the city would potentially generate. Even with a $100,000 increase to our stipend, SPM would save the city roughly $250,000 annually. This increase would allow us to raise wages, implement an individual coverage health reimbursement account agreement, an ICRA, and retain qualified museum professionals. In addition, if the city takes over operations, it would need to purchase approximately $250,000 worth of non-collection assets currently owned by the nonprofit. Items like equipment, technology, gift shop inventory to help maintain the daily functions of SPM. SPM remains the cost-effective, experienced, and community-centered partner. With a modest investment, we can continue delivering professional stewardship while investing in our team, our most valuable asset. This public-private partnership is not only working, it's a smart, sustainable model that protects public dollars and preserves our historic landmark. Our staff's effort have earned us consistent 5-star guest reviews and accolades like the recent Business Rate's Best Museum of Superior Award. Our programming is frequently highlighted in media and community outlets, amplifying the city's visibility. Our staff provide fantastic service to community members and tourists at pirate rentals, through the membership program, and at events, programs, and tours. In December, we wrote and submitted a 350-page proposal outlining our vision for the future, which includes expanded storytelling, new collaborations, and a stronger relationship with the city. We're committed and engaged in this process transparently and in good faith with a solutions-focused mindset. Part of our proposal included our strategic plan. This was developed in 23-24 with Superior Effect Marketing to create a comprehensive plan for the next 3 to 5 years. This had hundreds of community members represented in that process. It identified 4 key focus areas that were the goals to continue moving forward. These goals are measurable, qualitative, quantitative, are achievable, and demonstrate a dedication to growing and improving upon the last 25 years. We have done the work to show that we are serious with managing the city's museums, and the strategic plan outlines what we plan to do. We deeply value our collaboration and long-standing partnership with the city, and we are asking for the opportunity to continue the work we've done for the last 25 years, serving this community with professionalism, fiscal responsibility, and heart. Please vote no on bringing the museums back under city operations, and let's come back to the table together. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Thank you. The next, I'm struggling with the first name. I think it might be Irene Ryder.
Hi, I'm Irene Ryder. I'm Irene Kay, and I live on East End. I'm very passionate about the museums, and I know you are too. I love volunteering and going to Fair Lawn, the Meteor, and the Fire Hall with my auntie, mom, and little sister. I have volunteered there for 5 years. I have lots of good memories there, and maybe you do too. The Board of Superior Public Museums is awesome. I respect that you have feelings about changing that, but I believe that they are doing a great job as is. My auntie and her teams are volunteers. Volunteers are practically superheroes. Do you really want to try and replace superheroes? They love their job and don't get paid. They choose to be a part of the team. They are passionate about what they do and make sure the museums are at the best they can be. Nothing's perfect, but they've come very, very close. I do believe the city could do a good job running the museums, but not better than the Superior Public Museums team already. Please vote to keep the board in place. They are amazing, just like you. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa Ryder is next.
Good evening. My name is Alyssa Ryder, and I'm an East Ender. Mayor and City Councilors, As a resident of Superior and a fan of Superior Public Museums, I'd like to articulate my ardent support for their continued management of Fairlawn Mansion, the SS Meteor, and the Firehouse and Police Museum. One of the reasons we're here is because we love our museums. We are proud of our community, our history, and being able to share it with others. I've been privileged to be witness to the positive growth headed by the Superior Public Museum Board in the past decade plus. As a resident of Superior, an excited volunteer with my daughter, a renter of the space for special gatherings, and a community member attending one of the variety of events at the sites, be it live music, children's events, special talks, or the holiday sampler. I've gotten to meet the board members and staff, and I can't say that I've met a more supportive, passionate, and fun group. They genuinely care about the preservation of the area's historical landmarks, the education of locals and tourists alike, and creating safe and accessible places and events for the community. One of my favorite events of which is Quiet Santa, an event for children with autism and other special needs to give them and their families a holiday experience they may not be able to have elsewhere, let alone in a beautifully decorated Victorian mansion. The board and staff are open, approachable, seeking improvements, continuing research, increasing engagements, supporting renovations, establishing and maintaining contact with families associated with the sites, and always trying to improve and grow and learn. There is no stagnancy with this group. They strive themselves in transparency, of financial and ethical responsibility equal to the historical legacy for which they promote. They have a consistent track record of putting the museums and the community first. With all this history of effective and exemplary stewardship, why would the city seek to remove the board without first trying to work as a team to communicate areas of growth or ideas to streamline operations? The city already has a stalwart steward of the museums in place. I do not see the benefits of removing the museums from the established board, especially in regards to fiscal and logistical aspects of the operation. I implore you to leave the museums in the passionate care of Superior Public Museums. Please work with them to preserve and grow together as a partner for our community and the legacy we are creating together. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Valerie Burke, please. Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and public. I have been an SPM employee for 11 years. First as a tour guide, and for the past few years working in administration. I loved my job. Jordan, Cindy, and I work well together as a team, and we have kept SPM functioning for the past year. We also have a great group of tour guides. I know the SPM board has a lot of passion, but I feel the best path forward is to have the city take over management. I am very concerned about the 3 collections, and I feel that more could be done as far as allocating more resources to preserve and support this history. I believe the city has more resources to help us achieve this goal. There's a lot of anger between the city and SPM, and I'm afraid that in the end, the 3 museums and the 3 collections will suffer. What is most important to me is that in 50, 100 years from now, these structures still exist and their collections are properly stored. The rift between the city and the SPM board has created so many negative feelings, misunderstandings, and I don't see a path where the 2 entities find a way to work together towards a common goal. However the vote goes tonight, please think about what is best for the 3 museums, their collections, the staff, and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Betts is next.
Good evening, Mayor Payne, councilors. Good evening, Mayor Payne and councilors. How's that?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, and residents who are here. I've been listening to this issue for a year or so, and it seems to me that if you have outstanding care of your museums under people who have years of experience, that you would want to continue that. You've got a gem here, and of course you can think, well, maybe these people will all die and we'll have to hire somebody who doesn't have any vested interest. But let that time come. They're not going to destroy the collections. They have just as much concern about what happens 50 years now as you do. And I would say that this is something that's unnecessary. Do it later when you really need to, and both sides are with each other. No need to make a problem of it now. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. That is all I have signed up for public comment. Would anybody else like to speak in public comment? Please state your name and, if you don't mind, your address so we can record it in the minutes.
Good evening. My name is Robert Kinney, and I live at 2107 Ogden Avenue in Superior. Actually, my title is Dr. Robert Kinney, so I've actually worked for 4 years as the administrator at Superior Public Museums. From July to November of 2018, I was the interim director. After the new director was hired, I went back to my former role as an administrator and left in April of 2021. As a former staff member of SPM, I want to express my support for the Finance Committee's recommendations regarding museum management. It all boils down to what's the best for the museums and what's best for the museum staff. I believe that the city will be better able to oversee the maintenance of the 3 sites and take better care of the staff that currently run the museums. The current staff and volunteer pool can definitely remain the same. It's just who manages the staff will now be done by the city versus the board of SPM. I believe the city will be more capable in providing benefits like health insurance, retirement benefits, and other benefits to the full-time staff. And if future staff need to be hired, due to the benefits provided, the city will be able to get more quality staff that's well-trained with a museum background. I truly believe that if the city had taken over management at the time when I was working at SPM, that I still would have been working there to this day, as I truly was very passionate about my job there. I do believe there can still definitely be a role for the current nonprofit organization of SPM as a friends group. Instead of worrying about overseeing staff issues or building maintenance issues, they can focus more on organizing events and fundraising, which still can benefit the museums. In conclusion, please vote yes in support for the Finance Committee's recommendations regarding museum management, as I believe it will greatly benefit both the museums and the staff that work there. And that's all that matters. Thank you for your consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in public comment? Again, please say your name.
Hi, my name is Brian Finstead. I live at 2107 Ogden Avenue in Superior. I'm sort of just a history nut by nature. I'm the historian of the Gordon Wascott Historical Society. I'm on the board of the St. Croix Heritage Area, the Douglas County Historical Society. I recently just left a term with the Superior City Heritage Preservation Commission, and we moved to Superior to initiate the restoration of the Roosevelt Terrace. Really, I just have so many thoughts that are swirling, but really you're going to get, I'm not disagreeing that it's going to cost more, but you're going to get more from what you invest in. And I think the best way that you're going to get a really top-performing museum system is investing in high-quality staff. Sort of my social and friends group is networked with museums all around Wisconsin and Minnesota. And so I'm very aware of the pool of applicants for executive director positions within museums statewide in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And when SPM opened up theirs, I reached out to a whole bunch of people and either asked them to apply or asked them why they didn't apply. And every time it was the lack of benefits. So it's severely kneecapping us in terms of the talent that we're attracting. You're going to get what you pay for with the staff that run the museums. Boards are wonderful things, but board seats should just keep turning over. Board seats shouldn't be permanent seats. We're not looking at, replacing anything that exists in terms of the staff could remain, the volunteers could remain, so many things could remain. It would just be the day-to-day operations of the employees. Being city employees, they would have access to better pay and benefits, and you're going to attract better high-quality staff and retain staff. I should say SPM has had some wonderful quality staff that have left. This has been going on for a really long time, and I know there's a lot of details that would still need to be worked out. I would prefer the model that Robert spoke to of SPM turning into a Friends group. I'm also the president of the Friends of the Bird Sanctuary, so I'm very aware of Friends groups and what they can provide. For those not aware, the Friends of the Bird, or the Bird Sanctuary, is also what's called the Douglas County Wildlife Area. So we don't, we have a DNR property manager who's a wildlife biologist. We don't directly oversee him. He has his government job and his government benefits, but we boost everything that happens at the Bird Sanctuary with fundraising and events and activities and programming, and it's a wonderful thing for the Bird Sanctuary. We can buy signage and equipment. When I heard them say if the city did take it over, that the city would have to purchase their equipment. Well, if they became a Friends group, one thing that a Friends group could do is purchase equipment for the organization. So it looks like they already have done that. That would be just a really easy transferable slide over. So this has been going on a long time. I really would encourage you to support your committee's recommendation and move this forward. I know there's many details that could still be worked out, but let's pick a direction here. Let's go with a direction, turn a chapter, and support your committee's recommendation. They've taken into consideration a lot of information over a really long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in public comment? Please come forward and say your name, please.
My name is Sean Tenorelli. I live at 609 8th Avenue East in Superior. I try my best not to get emotional when I talk about the organization because it has literally been a part of me since I was in diapers. I volunteered, I continue to volunteer, and now I'm a proud longest standing member on the board. Doing this is a mistake. Taking it on is a mistake. It takes a lot more than you think. We have built something strong, and I think we have shown through the application process that you requested of us that we have a plan going forward. Moving forward, that is the right decision. And I know some of you who have been on this board for a long time know my mother and what it meant to her to be a part of this organization. I strongly encourage the board to consider keeping it in the hands that it's already been taken care of for the last 25 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in public comment?
Thank you, councilors and Mayor Payne. I'd just like to preface this by saying, even though I'm in uniform tonight, I am just on duty for the Superior Fire Department. I am not speaking on behalf of the Superior Fire Department. I'm speaking as a citizen who lives at 724 North 19th Street. So my name is Susie Olson. I am a member on the board for Superior Public Museums. I had no intention of speaking tonight. But as I'm sitting here listening to everything and thinking about how much is on the line, I just felt compelled to speak to you guys and let you know some of the things that I see with Superior Public Museums. I've been on the board for only 5 years, but in the 5 years I've been a part of the board, it's been absolutely amazing to work with the people that I've worked with, to go through the whole strategic plan process, and it's been very stressful for the last year having to deal with whether we're going to be continuing with Superior Public Museums or not. Obviously, being a firefighter, Old Firehouse and Police Museum is kind of like my baby. It's the one that I pour the most heart and energy into. I'm there volunteering a lot. I run group tours. I've put up a lot of those displays myself. My own pictures in that museum in many locations. My father is in there. I'm also a board member for the State of Wisconsin Fire and Police Hall of Fame. And for those of you who know or don't know, that's housed in the old Firehouse and Police Museum on the second floor. It's actually in state statute that it is housed in the old Firehouse and Police Museum. So I serve as a liaison on that to our board for Superior Public Museums. I feel like throughout this process, SPM really hasn't gotten a fair shake. I've been at a few of the Finance Committee meetings, and we haven't even gotten to speak. We put together, our board put a ton of time together to put together that 320-some page proposal, and I don't even know if it was read. And there was a lot of information that was in that. I know many years ago, the city used to run the golf course. They switched golf course to be a different operation, and now every month we get to hear an update on how the golf course is doing, but we never really get to hear updates on how Superior Public Museums are doing. I feel like there could be a better relationship between Superior Public Museums and the city, but I feel that the way forward is not for just the city to take over those museums. I would highly recommend you guys not accept this recommendation from the Finance Committee. I would hope that you would send it back to the Finance Committee. My true hope here is that you award a contract to Superior Public Museums for the next 3 to 5 years with more city involvement, whether that's the mayor appointing more board members to Superior Public Museums so that the city has more input on what we do and how we operate. We would love that. We absolutely would. We don't want to be kind of left in the dark on what your wishes are. We have one council member that is on our board, and that's it. We'd love to have more. We'd love to have more citizens that are appointed even by the mayor to be a part of that process. There's definitely ways forward so that it's not just all in the city's hand, and I really hope that you guys can decline the recommendation tonight, take it back to finance, and find some other ways that we can all have a voice together and work through this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in public comment? Please. If you could say your name, please.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Bella Olson. I live at 5720 Butler Avenue. I have worked as a tour guide at Superior Public Museums for exactly a year now, which means I have worked here as long as you guys have been talking about this. So that is all my life is. Looking at how being part of this organization for a full year, seeing how the collections are managed and everything, and the fact that our administrative staff are doing everything they can, and it kind of feels like the board is constantly pushing back on some of the things that the administration is trying to do, and administrative staff are trying to do to make the museum better. I don't know all of the nuances of everything, obviously, but I'm not sure that continuing with how Superior Public Museums has run the organization is necessarily the best step forward. There are more things that have to be done with collections to make sure they are maintained and we can keep showing these beautiful places. And there are new events we can do, but we can only do them with more funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, councilors, Mayor Payne. My name is Spencer Miller. I'm at 806 East 4th Street. I've been on the board at Superior Public Museums for approximately 10 years. I currently am the vice president of the board. Councilor Sweeney, I heard you say you think that this has been going on for about 10 months and you're kind of tired of it. I would agree. Last year, when our executive director gave us a 2-month notice because her husband took a job out of the area, she had to move away. So we started our executive director search. We were then contacted by the city and said that the city would like to see us pursue a potential merger with Douglas County Historical Society. Our board voted to have those conversations. We met with DCHS multiple times in many different sessions. Ultimately, the city asked us to pause our executive director search, so we were not able to do that when we did have a number of very qualified candidates that submitted applications. Move forward, our board voted in favor of merging with DCHS. DCHS then, their board voted that they did not want to merge with SPM. The city then decided that they were going to put out an RFP for organizations that would like to bid on running the Superior Museums. We submitted that proposal. I know there were other proposals also submitted. We were supposed to be given the chance to talk with the Finance Committee regarding that. We were not afforded that opportunity. Instead, it then became that the city wanted to take over management of the museums. There wasn't a proposal submitted by the city, so I don't understand exactly how that works, but that's okay. There are a lot of expenses and a lot of materials needed to run these museums. We have done so for 25 years. All along this path for the last 14 or 15 months, every single recommendation that the city has given to us, we have said, yes, how can we accommodate that? And every time it feels like we are met with resistance. And so now we are here before you with a vote that says we never had the opportunity to actually talk with the Finance Committee. We never had the opportunity to have any of the city councilors ask us questions. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say any. We have had multiple city councilors ask us questions. So I would strongly ask that you all vote no and allow Superior Public Museums to continue operating our local museums. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in public comment? Please come forward. Again, please say your name.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. My name is Martin Carpa. Address, are you ready for this? N4316 County Highway M, Serona, Wisconsin. That's I'm located about halfway between Spooner and Stone Lake, Wisconsin. For a little more than 10 years now, I've been a volunteer for the museums. So that's a 160-mile round trip every day. I came here with thoughts. I didn't come here intending to speak, so I'm shooting from the hip right now. A lot of words have been said tonight. A lot of words have been spoken over the last 10 months regarding this issue. A lot of pros, a lot of cons. The scale's kind of unbalanced here from my point of view. I've never heard your reasoning, the reasoning for the request to take over management. I don't know if anybody else here has, but what I'd ask you to do when you go into the vote tonight is to consider what's best for the museums, for the physical museums, not what's best for the city, but what's best for the museums. You sense the passion here and the dedication. So please vote for what's best for the museums themselves. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in public comment? Anybody else like to speak in public comment? One final call for public comment. Hearing none, I will close public comment. The question, councilors, this question is a little bit strange because it's what Robert's Rules calls a negative question, and I would usually not allow a question like this because doing nothing achieves the recommendation of the Finance Committee because the MOU is already set to expire at the end of August or beginning of, I forget the date. And so if we did nothing tonight, that would happen and the city would acquire the museums. However, I felt it important that the council debate and give clear direction as an entire council. So I will ask for a vote on this motion after any discussion. And in the event that the vote fails, we will need to either reconvene the committee or have some further discussion. I'm going to need a proposal because even if this fails, we are on track for city acquisition here when that MOU expires. So there will have to be another action that fails. So some parliamentary cleanup so that we can proceed to a debate. But I believe we need some direction from the council. The administration does. Councilor Elm.
I just wanted to comment that the museums should be very proud of their 25 years, the many years of their dedication and service they provided to the community. And I just want to say that this is not the end. Even if the city takes over operations, it's not the end. Citizens will still have the opportunity to volunteer and participate. While the future structure is still being developed, there will likely be options for the community members to serve in various advisory boards or committees. We've heard the comments of Friends of the Museum's nonprofit group. I think that could work, and it could still hold a significant influence in shaping the future of the museums. All current employees will be retained. That institutional knowledge won't be lost. This is simply a new direction the city has chosen to take for the best interest in the museums. This is not a reflection of failure, rather it's a new beginning. The committee has spent nearly a year working on this process alongside the mayor's efforts in negotiations. We have thoroughly reviewed the proposals and ultimately believe that the city-led operation is the best long-term interest for our community, museums, and that is my comment.
Further discussion? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate everyone speaking tonight, and the turnout for support for the museums shows how passionate everyone really is about our museums in the city, so I applaud you all for coming tonight. I have a few questions, Mr. Mayor. I was hoping maybe you could answer, maybe more than a few, so bear with me here. You know, one of the things that I heard was that maybe SPM or other organizations did not get a chance to present their proposals. We had a tourism change not that long ago where the RFP was presented, some of those things were presented. I feel like we could have had that process play out similar with this. It would have been nice to have seen those processes or those proposals in person and given a presentation. So maybe something we can improve on for the next time. Going back to what you had just said about kind of this doing nothing, or if this fails, that we need another process or another step. My suggestion would be that then we have said as a council that we go back to the finance committee and ask the finance committee to review those other two. I think there was 2 other proposals that were sent in. Is that correct? 2 or 3?
I'm only aware of. Well, there was a proposal from the Superior Public Museums and from Douglas County Historical Society.
So we would ask that they choose one of those 2. At least that would be my reasoning there. Did the city submit a proposal, or just thought the other 2 entity proposals weren't the best option?
The administration has not made a recommendation. In the conversations with the Finance Committee, I did express, as I expressed to council, that city acquisition is an option, and as that conversation unfolded, I explained how that would work.
Okay. I thought you had said, I'd have to go back and look, but I know you said that you were going to submit a proposal. Maybe it just sounded like it. I guess I'd have to go back and check that. But do we have a transition plan in place?
Yes.
Could you explain what that is? I mean, I have some specific questions about transition, but maybe you could kind of outline what your plan is for transitioning, and if I have any further questions, I can kind of follow up.
There are a lot of moving parts, but the broad strokes would be that the MOU will expire on the date that you set at the last meeting, and then, which is, I think, just about 3 months. We would need 2 full cycles of the Human Resource Committee to create job descriptions for the Superior Public Museums employees. I believe we already have the information that we need to do that, at least on a preliminary basis, though I would still send drafts to those employees to review and get their feedback. That first meeting is in, I believe, 2 weeks. So we would work on having drafts for those. Once those job descriptions are complete, we send them to our consulting agency for the wage step and get a recommendation for where to place them on the wage step. Then the Human Resource Committee would have to create the jobs themselves by approving the job descriptions and authorize us to fill them. Now, the administration would be able to fill them all automatically with the exception of anybody that is a supervisory employee. My understanding is that's 1 person, which would require council confirmation. My intent would be to hire everybody that is existing on staff. That would be my request of the Human Resource Committee. So after that, we have the existing staff, and I would ask them to continue operations under the direction of the Parks and Rec Director. Any significant changes or, let me back up. Immediately, say if this were authorized tonight, I would direct the Parks and Rec director to begin meeting with the museums to review all assets, to review the collections, determine what equipment we need or don't need, prepare that inventory if we need to make any purchases. We have funds that can be used for those purchases as necessary. We would probably present an updated plan in 1 month, most likely to the Finance Committee, but just as likely to the Parks and Rec Committee, probably both. And then we would be, at that point, we would be ready to take over operations. It would be the existing operation under the with the existing staff having been converted to city employees onto our pay scale with our benefits, and then they under the supervision of the Parks and Rec director.
So we wouldn't be hiring like another executive director for this. It would just be the Parks and Rec director would.
That's very possible that we would create another position that currently is foreseen to exist within the museums, but where the museums are operated independently now, that position isn't likely to look identical to what the previous position has. So we would generate a job description. I'd rely on the recommendation of the Parks and Rec director and the existing museum staff. See, is that position necessary? I expect that it is. But more importantly, what are the duties so that we can place it in the wage scale?
Okay. So if I'm kind of following your timeline, so HRC meets in 2 weeks. We'd get that set. They'd come back with a wage step in July. It would be approved then. So by July, we would have all the job descriptions ready to go and set to be approved here at council.
Yeah, the administration will meet those timelines. I can't speak for the committee.
And that's kind of the important part here. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I've sat on the Human Resources Committee, both as an alternate and as an active member, and very rarely did we get a job description through in 1 month. So I'm a little concerned about the timeline on that. Do we have to post these jobs, or can we just acquire those employees?
I'm not aware of any requirement to post them. I've always posted positions. There have been some very rare exceptions, but they're so rare I can't think of any. In this case, I am proposing an exception. I do not believe that any person should lose their jobs because of an administrative change.
I agree. Thank you for that. But there's no requirement that municipalities have to post something for open positions or anything.
If there is, I'm not aware of it.
Okay. If there is I guess I should ask that question to Attorney Perrell, but if there is something like that, then that could delay this process even further.
If that requirement exists, but while I'm trying to play it safe here and say I'm not aware of it, I'm fairly sure. I'm sorry? Yeah, but Director Cami Janigo, are you aware of any requirement for us to post a position?
Sorry. No, there is no requirement other than HRC has always requested that the positions be filled. Yeah, but there is nothing by ordinance or anything to that legality.
So I have never, I have always posted them. In this case, I would not recommend it, but that would be the committee's decision.
Okay. Can you help me? This is a loaded question, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize for saying it this way, but can you help me understand how we're going to pay for this? Like this seems like an awfully big chunk. I just pulled the number that I heard in the public comments of $350,000 a year additional. I don't know if that's the exact number or if it's somewhere even in the ballpark, but how do we plan to take on these additional employee costs?
Well, it's worth noting that the museums do come with a certain amount of revenue, and so all we did in preparing for the financial costs is look at what we expect the true cost to be within the city structure, which could be anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000, depending on what other positions we decide to hire. So the city's budget, without giving you a lengthy rundown of the budget itself, is capable of holding that. Those are conversations I've had with the finance director. We're not going to break this city's budget on $500,000. If that would be a little bit of a burden, if we took on none of the museum's revenue. But there's some that's automatic. There's already a few $100,000, I think $150,000, maybe $170,000 that's going automatically to the museums. The museums draw revenue themselves, and So what I can't speak confidently on, what I don't intend to speak on, is exactly how much revenue will come in. That's an operational decision that will be impacted by a lot of policy choices that we make that we can't make unless and until we're the operator. One of the main examples, admission. I'll be very honest with you. I've never been a big believer in charging admission for the museums. It's not my decision to make. That's the museum's board decision to make. If the council takes it over, that would be your decision to make. But there is revenue if there is admission. There is not if there is not. So those are the kind of choices that we'll face. But I can tell you confidently the city can afford to acquire the museums. It is my responsibility to administer the budget, to propose it. I am very protective of the city budget. Anybody that's been here for years knows that I am. This is not me recommending this. It is me telling you that we can do this if that is the decision of the council. The city has generally run surpluses every year. I'm confident that we can handle this operation just in the same way that they have. There would be increased costs, but most of those increased costs come from higher staff wages, and if I have any recommendation at all, it's that staff should be paid fairly. And if the costs need to increase, they need to increase on either organization.
Okay, but I guess let me be a little bit more specific. So the tune of 250 to 500, I mean, that's a large range. I mean, that's a huge range of additional costs for the city. We can absorb that into even if it was at the high end, we can absorb that within the budget.
Well, at this point, obviously that would have to be built into the 2026 budget, and there would be costs. But again, so would the revenues, and many of those will involve policy choices. But the cost itself is $250 to $500,000. Again, let's assume 500. That's
Sure.
hiring a full executive director with the full
Right.
duties right now, with the full pay and benefits that we would expect them to make.
Okay.
I don't think all of those things are likely to play out, but if they did, we're looking at about $500,000 for the whole year. So the 2025 burden is about a fourth of that because you're acquiring it very late in the year.
Right.
But then for the 26 burden, then we're subtracting any revenue, and then the number gets quite a bit smaller.
Okay. So we can afford the additional employees, is what you're saying. And then I guess kind of what I'm getting at, I have a couple other things here that I don't think maybe are as relevant anymore. But I think where I stand on this, and I agree with you that we need to increase the wages. You know, I'm a member, I have a Wisconsin retirement system. I'm really proud of the 15 years that I have in the WRS, and I look forward to a time when I can start drawing out of that, and I believe that a healthy retirement system for the WRS is good for everyone. But where I think the issues lie is that we are acquiring more, we are expanding our services more. I feel like we're stretching ourselves a little bit thin with this one. Now we've just last month, or it could have been in last week for all I know, my days have been kind of running together here, but at the last Parks and Rec meeting, we had our park superintendent talk about how many more miles of garden we've added within the city. That's more work for our city staff. We are looking this year for 2 more union contracts to come up, and we should be recognizing their service by keeping up with the wages and making sure that they're competitive. We have Connect Superior that we're going to be adding costs to the city for that. Now, granted, that might pay for itself at some point, but it certainly isn't right now. We are continuing to reach our limits as a city, and I feel like, although you're telling me that $500,000 is doable, now these museums will be competing for the same dollars that everybody else is. Now, granted, that is somewhat true already, right? The Superior Public Museums gets money from the city. If there were some capital improvement costs, we would be paying for that as well. It sounds like they have a good plan moving forward. I'd like to see them carry out that plan without the city taking this over. I'm just very hesitant. I'm not against this merger or this acquisition from the city. I'm hesitant right now, and I don't feel like it's the right move.
Counselor Fennessy was first.
It's one thing to say that we can handle this and we can find the money. It's only 500,000, right? But we passed a budget, a 2025 budget with a zero contingency, zero money left over at the end. And so where exactly, specifically, is this money going to come from? Now, I don't want we can handle it and we'll figure it out. Because when we pass a budget with a zero contingency, that means that if we're going to have to pull 250,000, or let's even say, 250,000, or half that, whatever it'll be for the year, it's going to come from something. Something's going to have to give. And so, where specifically are you going to find that money, and what other program or department or something is going to have to give something up?
Nobody has to give anything up. It'll come from surplus funding.
The surplus funding from what, though? When there's a zero contingency in the budget that was passed, where's the surplus?
We are not spending all the money that we budgeted.
So how much is in the surplus right now?
I'd have to pull up the actual funds, but I can tell you that we're not tracking to exceed our existing budget, so we're already tracking towards a surplus. Again, we have realized a surplus pretty much every year. The only year we realized a deficit, it was a paper deficit. So we've never really spent everything that we've budgeted. There's always been a cushion. Unrealized wages alone in many departments would probably cover this. For comparison's sake, you heard Chairman Sweeney reference the audit has closed, so the books have closed. Keep in mind, the extra cost is not $500,000. The total cost is $500,000. If the city acquires the museums, there's revenue that doesn't go to them anymore either. So it's less than $500,000. And the $500,000 includes an executive director that, if we're going to hire that person, that's still weeks, if not months away. So it's possible that expense wouldn't occur at all in 2025. But for perspective's sake, say the increase was $500,000, which again it is not. It's less than half the surplus from 2025.
So specifically, there isn't. You're just hoping that there's enough money in the surplus to make this happen today, and that we don't need that surplus next month or the following month with police and fire overtime. If we get a bad winter, November, December, extra salt, extra overtime. So we're just going to go into this blindly, cross our fingers, and hope that there's still a surplus at the end.
Absolutely not. We have budgeted for a bad winter. We have budgeted for significant police and fire overtime, and we are halfway through the year at this point. Several positions across the city that we have budgeted for have not been filled. We're talking positions, many of them $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year before benefits. That was money we projected to spend that we have not spent. That alone would cover the surplus of the museums.
Okay, but we don't know how much that is.
That could probably be calculated. That's not a number I have in front of me right now, but what I can tell you is, to date, the 2025 budget it's doing just fine. It's still on track. I mean, we're halfway through the year, but there are positions that from the beginning of the year have been unfilled. So we're still tracking fine to spend it.
So that's a number that can be calculated, but you haven't calculated that number yet, and we're to go into this assuming this additional cost without having that number calculated, if it's even there?
Well, I'd have to pull up the pivot tables. The number calculates once a week. What I'm saying is money that we have budgeted up to this point in the year has not been spent. So having reviewed our budgets on a regular basis, I'm telling you we are ahead for the year. I'm not prepared with that number in this moment, but I'm telling you that I am confident that the city is not going to realize a deficit in 2025 through the acquisition of the museums. There simply wouldn't be enough time to achieve that deficit, to realize that deficit. There's not enough cost left to spend on the museums in 2025 to achieve that. This would be a significant budget item in 2026, but by that point we're identifying the revenue sources as well.
This just seems reckless, but I'll move on. The current employees, SPM has a number of employees, both full-time and part-time. I just ask for, and I know we've talked about this, in the past, but I would just ask for your confirmation here that if this goes through and the city takes over, that all of those employees would their jobs would be secure and they would slide over into city employment instead of SPM.
As clearly as I can say it, I intend to hire every single employee with the permission of the council, and I will strongly recommend to the council that we hire every existing employee, maintain the volunteers that currently exist, and in putting them in our wage scale, I would recommend that everybody starts at least one level above whatever they are currently making at the very minimum, but I do believe they'll probably make significantly more than that. My answer to you is yes on that, absolutely.
Thank you. Have we ever in less than 2 months created multiple positions, which we're going to have to do here, get those positions approved by Human Resources, then confirmed by the council, and then had them be employees in less than 2 months? Because that's what we're going to have to do here, because the MOU expires in about 2 months. Have we ever been able to fast track a position?
Well, we've definitely hired this number of people within a
brand new position where it has to go through those additional steps. I'm not just talking about replacing an existing position that's already been approved by HRC, confirmed by the council, all of that.
Not that I'm aware of, no. But we certainly, I don't see any problem with that. We hired this number of staff on a regular basis.
Again, hiring staff is a lot less time consuming than creating a position, getting that position approved by Human Resources, getting that position confirmed by the council, and then looking for that employee to fill.
Yeah, we are not starting tomorrow. We've been working on this. We've been aware that this was a possibility. We've asked for information about those employees and their positions from the museum. So again, that is a council decision. My only commitment here is that the administration can provide to the committee everything it needs to do that in that time period. If the committee or the council decides to take longer, that is a legislative decision. I'm saying the administration is prepared to do it on that timeline. Yes.
Okay. And then it was brought up a couple times, both by Spencer Miller and then Councillor Johnson, about when we originally put out the bid packet and the requirements for the bid and how the process is going to play out, the timeline. One of those things in there was indeed that anyone who submits a proposal for this would have an opportunity to present in front of the finance committee, and that was never afforded to anyone that submitted a proposal. And then further on the bid process, there was 2 entities that submitted a bid, SPM and then DCHS. And now the only one on the agenda today is a third party that didn't submit a bid, didn't submit a proposal, didn't follow the bid procedure. So when we don't follow the guidelines and allow the entities that submit a proposal the opportunity to present, and when now we're looking for an entity to take over the management of the museums that didn't even submit a bid, how does that protect the integrity of the bidding process?
That's a question for the committee. The committee and the council controls the bidding process. I made no recommendations about the process.
But I'm asking you. I mean, it was your idea that you floated it out. You didn't submit you floated out in the beginning that you might submit a proposal. That never happened. I'm asking you if you think that this bid process was followed, and if not, where do we go from here when we're looking to award a bid? I mean, I know it's the city, but when we're basically looking to award a bid to somebody that didn't bid, at some point we've got to look at protecting the integrity of the bid process.
Well, that's an argument for the council. The bid, there is no bid process for this. We only have 2 bid processes: one for the awarding of public works contracts and one for the awarding of services. This is neither. This is a city-owned property, and to my recollection, this was a request for proposals. The committee and the council is allowed to do whatever it wants with the bid process. If you're asking my opinion, I don't have one. I am an agent of the council in this matter. The committee has set their process. They have reviewed it the way they chose to review it. I can tell you I have faith in that committee. I have tremendous respect for the counselors on the committee. They're among, with no disrespect to anybody here, they're among the most thorough counselors that we have, and they spend a lot of time working on it. If you disagree with their process, that's a debate amongst yourselves.
And then with the, I guess one or two last points here. With the city already owning, managing, running other historic buildings, when you look at the Carnegie Library, the Princess Theater, do you think we've proven to the residents that us as the city have the capability to run historic properties with, when you look at the Carnegie Library that's no further along than it was a couple years ago? When you look at the Princess Theater, there's no plan for that. Do you think we've proven to the city that we've got the capability?
Well, those are not museums. Those are empty structures, and both of them were in danger of collapse at the time we intervened. And considering the fact that they're still standing and stronger than they were at the time we intervened, I think we've at least demonstrated our willingness to invest in properties. But I'm not sure what point you're trying to make there. I'm proud that we have saved those structures, of course, and of the investments that we've made in them. But the operation of museums, those are already structures that we own. I do believe that we are capable of administering them the same way that we effectively administer every other city department.
Because although they're not museums, it was the city's grand plan to, like the Princess Theater, for example, take it on and then run it and turn it into an art space, music, whatever. It was certainly the city's idea to run it, and we're not doing that at all. And so, yeah, of course they're not museums, but I think it still shows a lack of ability on the city where we shouldn't be. It's the same thing with the Barker's Island Marina, with the Magic Golf Course. Those are two operations that are far better served and far better run by the public sector than they are the private sector. They're thriving now more than they ever have. Those two entities more than they ever had when under the city management. But I guess last in closing, I think I don't want anybody to get the impression that I don't see the value in the city taking this over, because there's no doubt that we'll be able to pay the employees better. We'll be able to provide better health insurance or health insurance, period. I think more oversight, more communication, better with the city would benefit. But I think we can also accomplish all those things with SPM. With maybe it would probably take a little bit bigger annual stipend than the $100,000 that we give them each year. But I think we can accomplish those higher wages, the benefits, the better communication, better collaboration with the city, without throwing away 25 years of experience and starting over. Without an executive director, without all of that. So I think we have an opportunity that I think we're overlooking by just this one option here.
Councilor Sweeney, please.
There's three items I want to talk about. First of all, we're talking about what we budget for and the actual are two different things. We have been tremendously fiscally responsible. This year last year, 2024, we're going into a surplus somewhere probably south of 7 figures, okay? That's substantial. We have a great surplus. In fact, our surplus sometimes it exceeds it. We have a balance. We will not let it go above. It's gone above that. So when we budget something versus actual, the current management has done a great job in making sure that our budget does not exceed what we say, and most times it doesn't. The old saying is you set expenses for the catastrophes and you set revenues for a reduction. So we're in great shape that way. We have surpluses. We have a surplus going in for 2024, so that's not a problem. It's very difficult to say
tell me specifically, we budgeted to buy 1,700 pencils, and then we'll cut it back to 400. We can't do that. But rest assured, the past experiences in 5 years, 6 years, I had a surplus, unless some catastrophe happens, and that's why we have these surpluses. So I'm completely confident that we will be able to ride out this, take this $500,000, 250,000, whatever the number is. That's not and that's, I'm not making light of that, but that's a small percentage of our overall budget. I must deal with Mr. Johnson for a minute. He indicated that the Human Resource Committee, which I can speak of, and I think my two members, we will meet 2 or 3 times in a month if we have to get this moved on. There's no, even if we did have to meet, we can meet every week. So we'd make a commitment. I think the two members would make a commitment. We'll get it done. I'm sure that the commitment from the city staff, and we can make a commitment. The Human Resource Committee, we will get the job done on time. There's no concern about that. Sometimes we do have to meet more than once, but if it has to be done, we will get it done. And so there's no worry about that, no concern about that. I think this is the 3 people in the front. We spent a lot of time on it. We looked at it. This is the best move overall for the 3 museums. It's the best move for the employees. It's the best move for the long-term effect for the overall city. The gentleman who spoke, who was formerly the director of it, he spoke with knowledge. He spoke with experience. He knows. Another gentleman spoke. You have to pay people to get people, okay? We're not doing that now. We must do that. So, and from our standpoint, the 3 of us on the Finance Committee, this was, we spent a lot of time on it. We opened up the envelope, we opened up the onion, we peeled it back, and every turn, every peel became more obvious to me that the city should take the museums over. Thank you.
Further discussion. Councilor Grasky.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are you sure? Okay. I have a couple of questions, and then I just want to give my opinion on kind of this timeline. And I want to say, I think what I'm kind of overall hearing, and I think we're like in support of it one way, but we have questions. And I think what's coming down to is the plan. And I think us as counselors, I'm sorry to speak for all of us, but there's just other decisions that we've made in the past that a plan would feel better. I know there's been a lot that has been said on the floor tonight, which is news to me sitting here tonight. So, you know, as I start to look at breakdowns, I have the annual report of SPM here in front of me. I've looked at their tax returns all the way up to 2018. You know, very interesting concept. But one thing is, we as a city give them money yearly. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do we have a ballpark number? I've heard 155 or 155,000 to 185,000.
I believe it's 150,000 plus 5% of the city's share of the hotel motel tax. So
Okay.
one of those is variable. That's why it's something like 175 is the last I think I saw. Something like that.
Okay. So we
Not
could.
200.
So does that then become, that amount become, let's say we do take over these properties or management, that number is ours, the city of Superior.
Yes, we'll have to amend the ordinance, but yes.
The hotel motel ordinance.
Yes, that for that part, but otherwise, yes, we would keep the stipend.
Okay, so then that would be the difference, and I guess the number we're fetching here is 500,000. That sounds like what we're speaking of in the difference.
So that's the most known number because it's a fixed number that we give as part of the stipend, then whatever the hotel motel tax is. So 500, I prefer to use that for financial planning because it is the largest number, and so it's the most conservative budgeting. But again, 500 includes an executive director, so you'd have to hire that person right away. And that's an annual, the whole thing is an annual number.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking at budget planning for 2026, call 500,000, assume you'll have an executive director on day 1 of 2026, which is your most conservative plan. Then subtract from that number the known stipend, 150,000, give a reasonable estimate at the hotel motel tax allocation. Then you start looking at much more variable revenue numbers. For example, will the city continue to hold fundraisers? We could. I have a highly competent event staff that could help organize that. The staff are already, the staff of the museums are already leading most fundraisers, so we could do that. We could continue to collect admissions. We could do gift shop sales. We could do none of that, which would obviously reduce the revenue quite a bit. We have other options as well. Our Parks and Rec director, our new director, is a prolific grant writer, and so we'd be eligible. No, grants are never a guarantee, so you definitely would not want to budget that, but there's opportunities. And so those are the more variable revenue options. When it comes to those things, I tend to budget very conservatively.
Okay, thank you. And I think that the number one thing, it's our fiscal responsibility to make sure that this is not something that in the long run ends up being somewhat of a complication. And so, as it's no secret, I have chaired tourism since, or the tourism commission since it was created. And of course, you know, I have some big fans out there in the community of my decision making, and I think that what I think we could have done better when we did do that change was take a little more time with a plan. I think we're fine where we are now. I think there's a really concrete commission that has a lot of passion, just like we're hearing that we have a board over here that has a lot of passion, and plus people that have been a part of this SPM scenario that have been staff and all of the above. And there's just a real passion for the history of Superior and doing it right. I don't know how to move this along, but if the MOU, is it concrete to August 5th? I mean, can we entertain that? You know, one of my fears from the tourism side is we are ending this at strictly the end of a campaign, and we are promoting outside of the city for tourists to come to town, to stay in our hotels, to experience our museums. And if we aren't ready by August 5th, what does that also then ripple effect into our tourism efforts? I don't need an answer. I just want to put that out there because I don't think anyone has really thought of that side of this. And I don't know if it's possible to change the MOU. I don't know if it's healthy to continue this through the whole year. I don't know if SPM would even want to, you know, keep kicking this down the road. I don't want to offend the finance committee here, but I think these are questions that when we had switched that over 4 years ago, that we weren't really considering these ripple effects that could happen. And so from the strength of tourism here, I'm a little concerned about the timing of all of this. And I would imagine that, you know, changing everything over is going to take time. It's not just going to be pass the baton and where everything's going to be the same. And I see these museums as a vital part of the campaign measure, including our winter campaign. And so I'm just curious if those questions were brought up, if there was any discussion on that end. I don't know if anyone can answer that. I don't know if it's possible to make this MOU last till the end. We can take time with these descriptions. We can hire appropriately. We can start off 2026 on the new fiscal year. I have no idea. I just think these are questions that have been rolling around in my mind because I want to get this right. And I do want to say that I do in some ways support the city managing these sites for the benefit in the long run. I think they are really important to the essence of our city. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, of course, but I just really have maybe some concerns that I have not heard from other councilors.
In terms of whether we can extend the MOU, it's not on the agenda tonight, but regardless of what happens tonight, that MOU can be extended at any time. Again, this is, I expressed at the beginning, I'm a little uncomfortable with this vote because it amounts to an advisory vote from a parliamentary perspective. But regardless of what you do, that MOU is ending when it's ending, and it can be extended by an act of the council at any time. So you could put that on the agenda for the next meeting to extend it. You could begin the work of transition, and if you feel that more time is necessary, you could extend it at the time you feel more time is necessary. Those are all choices available to the council.
And I'm truly speaking from experience, and this is coming from, you know, chairing tourism, and there was a very awkward period of time where it really did take us a long time to get going. And I'm just being honest with this community. And I think we need to be exactly where we are right now, and I'm really proud of all the work that we've done. And every commissioner has put forth those efforts, knowing feels like kind of the same setting tonight. And so I'm just coming from experience here that I don't know if this just takes an extra discussion, or I'm not really sure where to go with this, but I just need this council to understand that it was a little painful to have that switch happen so fast and not really have a plan. And I think I would like a little more plan. I would like a little more plan.
Councilor Herrick.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make a few comments. And I said this to the SPM group before, even when this all first started, that I do appreciate all your hard work and the things that you have done. However, with that being said, you guys did an awful lot of work, and I appreciate that. I did read everything. I know somebody's out there saying, well, probably didn't read anything. Well, we read everything. That's our job. So I just want to make that clear. One of the other things, too, is that I would like to see, however this passes, I would like to see those that are out there that are volunteering to continue as a group, as mentioned by one of our audience members tonight, to form a friends group, okay? Again, you can still continue your passion. You can still have says. You can still work hard and continue the work that you've been doing. One of the things I found out, I was down at the NER Center last week. They also have a Friends of the NER. They have a board, okay? So again, they do have a say. Also, too, there's the Friends of the Library, okay? So there's a lot of these friends groups have that passion. They continue to help in the community, and they continue to go ahead and do their love and their passion. So we're not throwing everybody out on the street. That's not true. And one of the things in our discussions is that I was concerned about, too, is keeping all the people on that are currently there. And that was important to me, because that is what we're all about. We don't want to throw everybody out. We want you all to continue to function in the capacities that you are. I could go on, but I won't. So again, thank you.
Councillor Johnson, for the second time.
Thank you. I hadn't really put a lot of thought into the tourism connection other than my opening statement about hoping that we could have seen a presentation from the two entities and even from the city on what a plan would look like. Because right now we do have plans from two entities. We just have, and Mr. Mayor, you've done a great job at least trying to answer our questions, but we haven't seen a plan. This has been consistent with what we've seen before, where it's kind of a trust me or trust us, we can get this done. And I want to put the most faith in our city staff, my fellow councilors up here. I trust that you have done the work to make sure that this is the best decision possible for what you believe is the best decision possible. But I have not seen enough information on how we're going to get this done. I was a part of that tourism transition. My first meeting, first committee meeting ever, was stopped short because one of the committee members quit halfway through, and we had to stop the meeting. It was a really awkward transition time, to say the least. And I'm not suggesting that this transition time will be similar or could be similar, but there's already been some tension with this transition. There is going to be a difficult time transitioning from SPM to the city taking over. I'm not saying that alone is a reason to vote against this. I'm saying that will be the case when or if the city takes this over. It is going to be awkward, and it's going to be a really hard transition. When I first saw that this was the direction that the Finance Committee went, I said, oh, well, we'll just, first of the year, right? We're going to take it over. And then I kept reading on. I was like, no, it's just a couple months. And I just feel like this is rushed. We are ready, shoot, aim once again in our plans for stuff for the city. And I'm just not ready to support this plan. I thoroughly believe that the Finance Committee has done what they believe to be the best decision for our council. I have not been convinced of that yet. It doesn't mean that I don't have the confidence in all of you to do your jobs, and that I believe, Councilor Sweeney, you're right. The Human Resources Committee, we've sat in some 3-hour, 4-hour marathon Human Resource Committee meetings that will stay until the work is done. And I believe that we need to stay until the work is done on this project by making sure that we have a plan in place, not just the plan being not the current direction. That in itself is not a plan. So for that reason, I'll be voting against this.
Any further discussion? Councilor Moffett.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts on this. We've been working on it for over a year now. There is a comment from a community member, if you have outstanding care, you'd want to keep that. And the reason that we're tackling this difficult conversation and this whole topic is that I don't feel, and a number of people feel, that we haven't had outstanding care in a number of ways. We've been at the table for over a year trying to work on a shared opportunity, because when you divide things, it's easier to conquer them, right? And so like divided resources makes everything more difficult. And so this was trying to be a consolidation process. And some of the people were just never able to see that as an opportunity and just perceived it as a threat. But if you're mission focused on preserving these museums and telling their stories and providing them as resources to our community, and knowing that there are so many passionate staff people and also a lot of passionate volunteers on board, it doesn't take a lot to realize that you can do more together than you can separately. And that's what this process was trying to realize. There's been a number of maintenance issues at the museum facilities, most recently with the meteor having a large crack that's being repaired now. But there's another of outstanding issues in there with oil in the ship and asbestos and lead paint. There's issues at Fairlawn. There's been issues at the Fire Museum. And it's been ongoing and persistent. I think that the city's new facilities manager has done an excellent job of going in to evaluate those facilities and trying to come up with good long-term preservation plans. I'm really excited that we have him on board as city staff now to look out for our residents and to look out for those facilities and our other city facilities. He seems very competent in the time that I've spent with him so far. There's been a number of staff issues there, not with the staff. The staff is great. And I don't think this is like the tourism situation, because the staff has been handling those day-to-day operations, and those day-to-day operations won't change. The staff, this entire process for over a year, DCHS, if they were going to take over, they committed immediately to we'll keep the whole staff. The city committed right away a year ago to, whatever we decide, we want the whole staff to stay. This isn't about the staff. The staff is good. This is about the management above that. And the staff will do better off in this scenario than if they stayed with SPM. In terms of wages, we're not offering competitive wages. When we have like a competitor bidder ordinance and we work on trying to get our city staff a raise when we can afford it every year and those sorts of things, those have just not been an issue at all at SPM. Their wages haven't been going up. They're really low. They can't attract they've got really dedicated staff now that are there, but I think there are people that can't afford to work there, and that's too bad, because I think there would be other qualified people that could potentially join the team that can't afford to do the work there. The health care issue is real. I am lucky where I work in a position that I don't need health care because my wife gets state health care. Some people have that opportunity where they have a spouse that can provide that health care assistance for them. They can afford to work at the museum, or they can afford to work in a nonprofit or at certain jobs. But there's a lot of people that need health insurance and don't have the benefit of having a spouse that can offer it to them. And I think it's really bad that the museum hasn't worked harder to provide health care for their staff. I also don't think that staff is really getting the professional or the emotional support that they need. We heard from a couple of them tonight, but it seems like there's an oppositional spirit where the staff is really dedicated to creating new experiences and doing new things there, and they're being told no by the board, or they're being shut down, or they don't feel comfortable talking with the board, they don't feel included in decision-making processes. There's been a number of collections issues. The Superior Public Museums changed their collections policy at some point. I'm not sure when they did that. They deaccessioned, got rid of a significant amount of items from the collection. And those items belong to city residents, not to SPM. And then the city found out afterwards. And the board actually, during our joint sessions, where we were trying to work on merger stuff, actually was bragging about streamlining their collection. But it's unclear to me, like, the number of items that are no longer in the city's ownership, or how that occurred. But the city didn't really find out about it until afterwards. There's been a number of fiscal health and fiscal management issues. Fundraising did bring in some dollars last year through the organization, but if you compare their fundraising costs with their fundraising income, the fundraisers really didn't bring in any revenue. I mean, a few $1,000s, but it really wasn't productive as a means of fundraising. Of course, fundraisers can have other goals like friend-raising or telling stories or other things, but as a fundraising perspective, they're not really productive. There's been a number of city nonprofit grant cycles. The board talks about how they haven't had enough money and they haven't increased their allowance, or their allowance from the city hasn't been increased. But during our budgeting process, they haven't asked for more money. They haven't said, we really want to provide our employees for health care. We really need to increase our wages so they are comparable to other city wages. We've got a bunch of maintenance issues at the Meteor. Can you throw some money in the budget? It hasn't happened. They haven't applied for the nonprofit grant rounds. And so even when there's potentially been money available to them to increase their fiscal abilities to get things done there, they haven't asked for those resources. And so, how could the city know that they need things when they haven't asked for it? And the board has eliminated their term limits so they can stay on past 9 years. They had their annual meeting. It was not open to the public. They did not advertise for new board members in the community. So I don't see a lot of board changeover there. The city originally, and please correct me if I am wrong here, but it was my impression that the city appointed either all or almost all of their positions when that organization was created. And now the city only gets one member. That's been gradually decreased and decreased and decreased. And so there's been a very intentional role where they say they want to work more with the city and they want to collaborate and they want to cooperate, but their actions have been the opposite of that. And it's been a lack of transparency and excluding city appointees and cutting those out. Our city staff tried to work with them to get their properties put on the historic property list, and were repeatedly delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. It was offered to them to have the applications for those properties to be completed for them, so they wouldn't have to dedicate any staff or volunteer time to doing that, but they really wanted to do it themselves, and there was a whole delay process on that also. There's just been a number of issues over the years, and it's not a comfortable conversation. And I don't think anyone brought this up because it was going to be fun to talk about tonight, but we're here to try and figure out what's the best step to preserve these properties as resources for our community in the future. And I think the Finance Committee really dug in and did a lot of research, and I'm going to support their proposal tonight.
Further discussion? Hearing none, the question is going to be whether the city should move forward with a assuming full operations of Fairlawn Museum, Fairlawn Mansion Museum, Old Firehouse and Police Museum, and the Whaleback Ship Museum. A yes, but Councilor Kraske?
I'm sorry. Just from a question that I brought up earlier, and just after we do the vote tonight, is there an opportunity to, I guess, work on a plan, not just something we've said tonight? How will this go next?
Yes, so that, again, there's really nothing binding about the vote. I need direction. The council's been talking about this for over a year. The Finance Committee has been in in-depth discussions, and they have given us a direction. That is 3 members of the council. I need an opinion from the council. If the council, I didn't want to just do nothing and move towards that termination date and then just drop, as a surprise, new positions at Human Resource Committee. If I get a direction from the council tonight, it's going to set us to work immediately tomorrow. We're going to start working on job descriptions for everybody, including our parks director, who's going to look at some amendments. If I can, I will meet with museum staff myself, as in I will go there. I'll meet with as many staff as I can. Our parks director will meet with board leadership and museum staff immediately, along with most city staff are already very familiar with the museum, so nothing's a surprise there. Then in terms of the council process, you would have a number of decisions left to make. Like I said, many of them are going to be in the Human Resource Committee. There will be some budgetary decisions as we go through the budget, but ultimately, if things were not ready and the museum board agreed, Superior Public Museums agreed, and everybody felt like we're just not ready to do this, then we would extend the MOU again. Creating job descriptions does not require us to fill them. And so there are bailout points here, and you're not taking an action tonight. You're just giving me the advice I need to either work on this or go back to the drawing board and work on some other thing. And then I would need proposals for what that's likely to be.
So we're just advisory, no power kind of concept.
Well, in some ways, you've already made the decision in that the MOU expires. You can change that decision at any time. But because the Finance Committee's made a recommendation, I'm asking, do you agree with that? And if you do, just a moment. If you do, then it lets me direct staff to start doing the actual work. If you don't, then we need to look at what the other options are. But all of that would take a certain amount of work too. So I'm looking for what job you want to give me right now.
First step of many steps.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Johnson.
I want to correct you a little bit there. You said we've already made a decision because the MOU expires, but we wanted to do a contract with MOU, and you told us to hold off. So we didn't make a decision by expiring the MOU. We wanted to have this started with, let's create a contract with MOU. We don't want any more MOU. Let's create a contract with SPM. We don't want any more MOUs. And then it turned into, well, there's probably some other options out there other than just SPM. Maybe we should investigate those. So we haven't, I don't feel like that's an accurate description at all of what my vote was to expire this MOU. I was in hope for a contract with somebody to manage this. I just didn't want you to mischaracterize what I felt like when I was voting for an expiration at the MOU.
Yeah, I can't characterize anybody's vote. I can only characterize the action of the council, which terminated.
Which you directed us to do because we had been asked to do a contract.
Councilor, I didn't direct the council to do anything. The council made a decision, and it was a specific action to terminate the MOU. You all had your opinions on why you made that vote. You all have expressed them. What I am asking now is what you'd like the city to do. What would you like the administration to work on?
Right.
The Finance Committee has made you a recommendation. I'm looking for your recommendation. If you don't agree, then vote no, and then propose something else.
Okay. I'm just trying to correct what you said. We started this process by trying to get rid of the MOU, not get rid of SPM. We wanted to do a contract with SPM, not get rid of SPM altogether.
There has been no resolution to that effect. There was only an action to terminate the MOU. I'm not arguing an opinion here. I'm not trying to characterize what you're saying.
But I guess I guess we're not going to agree on this part of it, but
And we are both out of order, and so we should terminate this debate. I will let you have the floor.
Thank you.
Although I would remind you that you've already spoken twice. We need to proceed to a vote here, except for anybody else that hasn't spoken yet. So if you have anything else to say to characterize your vote, please feel free. Okay, is there any, Councilor Liddy?
I do have a couple of questions here that I've been sitting on, Mayor, and wondering. I hear what the council says. Part of it is plan. I have those concerns too. You had spoke about whether or not we need an executive director or we don't need an executive director. I mean, it would be my opinion that if the city were to take this over, we need an executive director. Now, I don't know how to force administration's hand to say, yes, you're going to hire an executive director or not. I don't know if that is germane. Can we force this? Can we open this position?
Well, you can create the position.
We can.
You absolutely can. You can't require the administration to hire somebody, but if where we've created new positions, it's both a human resources and a budgetary question. But on this specific point, I am very likely to agree. I believe that the duties performed by an executive director cannot be adequately divided between the current museum's manager and the Parks and Rec and Forestry director. I expect there will be another position in there, and that's what I would budget for.
Okay. Also, question, because as of right now, there is an SPM board. If the city were to take over, I would assume there would be a Superior Public Museums Commission that council would have oversight over. Now, has this topic been discussed at all?
We discussed that at the Finance Committee. There are a number of options ultimately falling to the council that, but we have a Historic Preservation Commission that already handles many historic preservation matters. Plan Commission likely has statutory authority. If we put it in the Parks and Rec director, it seems likely it should go under Parks, Rec, and Forestry. That would be a final decision we'd leave to council because you generally have legislative control or at least advisory bodies on almost everything that we do. So yes, this would absolutely most likely be assigned to something that already exists. But if we felt we needed something entirely new only to work on this, including populating it mostly with citizens, that's an option. You can absolutely do that. It would be subordinate to the council.
Okay, I got you on that. And like I said, I mean, maybe my next question has to be germane to procedure, I guess I would say. Like I said, I have heard the questions about planning. I have heard the questions about an MOU expiring, and if nothing is done, the city automatically takes over. And you want some direction. My question is, before any type of recommendation, the ability to extend the MOU and allow the city to present its full detailed plan. Is something along those lines germane?
It couldn't be extended tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
But it could be extended at any time between now and then. Again, all I'm asking for is whether you want me to start working on acquisition, because the Human Resource Committee, the next Human Resource Committee is before the next City Council meeting.
And I get it. Like I said, I mean, I share a lot of Councilor Graske's concerns here as far as plan. Now, like I said, we hear the city, that there's a recommendation for the city to take it over. There is no definite idea of what that looks like yet, or nothing that has been put down on paper that I have been able to see or read, and something I would feel much more comfortable about if there was a plan that I read as far as what the entire process looks like moving forward. But I'll yield for now.
Any further discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
To add strength to as a finance committee member, to add strength to a yes vote, one thing that we do have a Park and Rec director now who has run museums, okay? She brings a wealth of experience, and so she was on the management team to get this moving. That was part of my decision because, and apparently been very successful at it. So that adds strength to the management team to get this moving. Okay, I just think that we are going to have bumps. Somebody alluded to we're going to have some bumps, and there's no question about that. But we understand that. Okay, we understand. But if you've got the experienced people to drive over the bumps, it makes it much smoother versus somebody who's never been there. So that's just another asset for, in my opinion, to vote yes. Thank you.
Councilor Grasky, this is the third time, but I gave Councilor Johnson a third.
Oh, okie dokie. I mean, can we, and this will sound like a motion, but just hold in this committee for 2 weeks? I'm sorry.
Yes, you can.
We have asked for a plan. We've all gave great ideas of things and needs and wants of ultimately this group making that decision. Would it be too much to ask to have that in some type of format so that our votes feel supported? I'm feeling one way, but I'm also kind of feel like I'm being contradicting when, I chair something that was a huge change overnight. And though I absolutely love the work that I do on it now, it just felt like if we took a little more time in making that decision, it would have felt more stronger. And this is nothing about I'm here for this, taking over these museums as a city and, as looking as the futuristic side of it. I just want to sit here, and if I vote a certain way, I want to have that behind me to know exactly why I'm voting the way that I'm voting. And that's my hesitation. So I don't know if I can make a motion to hold in committee for 2 weeks in order to get the city's idea of what they will do.
Are you asking to postpone it to next council meeting?
Correct, please.
Okay, is there a second to the motion? Motion is by Councilor Grasky, second by Councilor Sweeney to postpone the question to the next regular city council meeting. Discussion on that motion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 7.5 is the Business of the Public Safety Committee with a meeting held on May 15th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, we're going to report on the May 15th Public Safety Committee meeting, and we kicked off the meeting with some police and fire updates. Chief Winterscheid reported that the Superior PD is still investigating a jurisdictional obstacle with the Minnesota judge. The issue affects their Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, but importantly, no Wisconsin cases are being held up at this time. Traffic enforcement remains a priority with 283 traffic stops last month. There were 5,800 incidences that were handled year to date, nearly matching last year's to-date count. The emergency response team had 3 call-outs recently, a little more than usual, but they were all handled safely. Chief Volbrecht from the fire department shared that the department had answered 1,600 calls or so far for this year, putting them on track for a record high. The department is nearly finished implementing the new software system to modernize data and hydrant tracking. There's been training efforts including stroke recognition to help improve early diagnosis and response. There are large hose handling drills using the empty clinic building within the city, also used for joint training with law enforcement. There's mental health support that was highlighted in the meeting, that the 23rd Veteran Program, which is usually for military, has been expanded to include first responders. Station 2's rebuild is moving forward with the design and costing expected by the end of the month. They're working with the same firm building that Cloquet's fire station's using, so real-time cost comparisons will help with the budgeting. Also, with some old business, Councilor Johnson had revisited the T21 ordinance, which proposes raising the legal age from 18 to 21. Councilor Johnson wants more time to clarify those compliance procedures and emphasize working with the American Lung Association and the clerk's office before finalizing the ordinance. The committee voted to hold the item until July, so there'd be more time for prep and community awareness. I should mention that we had elections as well. I was elected as the chair of the committee, and Councilor Johnson is the vice chair. Councilor Anderson is a committee member, as well as Councilor Ledeen as an alternate. New business, was there's some stop signs that was proposed by myself at Cumming Avenue and North 13th Street. This was reached out to me by a constituent that was pointed out this is an uncontrolled intersection near the government center here, and this is near the county's overflow parking lot, so the committee had agreed to improve the traffic safety at that area, so that was approved. There was also a proposal for stop signs at 20th Avenue East and East 10th Street, originally a candidate for a traffic circle, but the design testing showed that trucks couldn't clear it safely, so instead we added another set of stop signs, which was now recommended to also be approved, and those are the two items of business tonight on the agenda. Thank you.
Unless there are questions for the chair, I will ask the clerk to read the ordinances.
The first is item 7.5.1 to approve an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 112, Traffic Code Schedule A, stops to change 20th Avenue East and East 10th Street from a two-way stop to a four-way stop.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Johnson. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
The second is to approve an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 112, Traffic Code Schedule A, stops, Section 3, one- and two-way stops to add Cumming Avenue at North 13th Street.
Motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Grasky. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 8.1.1 is the business of the Parks and Recreation Committee with a meeting held on May 22nd. Is there a report from the chair?
All right, I'll try and keep it short and sweet here, councilors. There was a few updates. Mayor brought up one. The tribute tree ceremony was today. Yesterday we had the library story walk unveiling. Wonderful. It was a beautiful day to get out, walk around Billings Park, and see what the Superior Public Library and the Parks and Rec Department was able to put together. It is wonderful. The Solar Garden project over there, the planting and sprucing up of that area was done on May 22nd. Some future upcoming events to keep your eye on. There is a Children's Memorial Garden event scheduled for July 20th. At a 1 p.m. there will be four bricks dedicated at that ceremony. Also, on June 16th, the goats will be in Billings Park doing their job to keep invasive species at bay. As far as the action item, you see the CIP budget for the Parks and Rec Department for the next 5 years, and that is for your guys' approval tonight. And any questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you very much.
Councilor Herrick.
On a lighter note, who's cleaning up after the goats?
Stay in there.
All right. Thanks.
All right, the first recommendation is to approve the 2025 Parks Capital Improvement Projects.
Motion is by Councilor Levine, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
At this time, are there any further committee or commission reports to be made?
Seeing none, we can move to new business.
10.1, I am recommending approval of the following request for unlimited transfer of full-service retail outfit for the on-premise consumption of beer by producer Earth Rider for the following events. Choice Credit Union Block Party, June 26th, 4th of July celebration, and a series of Bayside Sound concerts.
Motion is by Councilor Dean, second by Councilor Herrick to approve all of the, what is the noun here? A license?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We give our blessing to the state would issue the license if we're okay with it.
Motion is to approve all three recommendations. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.2, I'm recommending approval of the preliminary 25-26 report of renewing retail alcohol beverage licensing. This would set a public hearing for our next meeting for one license.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Levine. Councilor Anderson.
Can I recuse myself from one of those?
Yes, we're approving them as
a package.
Yeah, do you want to separate it to recuse yourself? Which one is it?
Anchor.
We have a privilege request for division to approve the Anchors license separately. There is a motion and a second. The record will reflect Councilor Anderson's abstention. Any discussion on that license? Here, Councilor Grasky.
I will also excuse myself from Spirit Room.
Let's divide that in just a second. Question is on the approval of the Anchor, the renewal of the Anchors. Wait a minute. This is the report, right? This is all the approvals, the renewals.
This is the preliminary report. You will be presented with the full report for approval of all licenses at the next meeting. This is part of our statutory responsibility to report who will be seeking renewal. And I give you a list of Part A and Part B. Part A is everybody who is getting all their approvals in. Part B is anyone who is at risk of a potential recommendation to not renew. This licensee would be notified to attend our next meeting that you may be considering a non-renewal. So you will be doing a full approval of all renewals at the next meeting. This is just a preliminary report.
Okay, it's possible this could be divided. I thought this was the individual licenses, but if there is no objection from the councilors, I'm going to go back to a motion to approve the entire report and have the record reflect Councilors Anderson's and Grasky's abstentions. Any objections there? Okay. Any further discussion on the report? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Is there any further business?
May I ask a quick clarification question?
Please.
These are alcohol licenses. Is there the tobacco licenses as well?
We will have this report for your approval at the next meeting for all tobacco licenses.
Thank you. Thank you, clerk.
Having no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you, councilors.